Jesus Christ. I saw you doing it in the little camera. That's fucking sick. I gotta make that shorter. I gotta make like a. Well, it's fun to have the long one, but I have to make something shorter.
Okay, so yeah, I was just as we were watching it, I was thinking, and I know this has no context to this episode whatsoever, but I'm actually really interested to know. Obviously, you put that together, yeah?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind that? Because between the music and the clips, I fucking love that intro.
Isn't it awesome? And this will be cut from the audio essentially, but like it's I wanted to do something like vintage kind of horror with a lot of like just strange like things, kind of like a little bit of drip fed conspiracies with um the They Live stuff, and kind of have like
Mhm.
old school horror, and I looked for like vintage clips and stuff like that, and that was kind of the idea. But
I love
welcome.
that intro.
Welcome everybody to the podcast. We got another one for your ear holes. We're gonna cream in them. I don't know why I said that, but anyways, I am Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, and who is joining me on this special episode?
The horror boy, and actually, I had a really good idea the other night. I've decided to reach out to somebody, and I'm going to get a horror boy t-shirts made.
Are you fucking
Or,
serious?
or horror boys, I was thinking.
Horror boys would be kind of cool and get a cool design done.
Yeah.
We have designs coming too, which is going to be really fun. Two are coming up of all of us. There's going to be a new Strange Brew logo that's in the works actually right now. We've seen the finished product. It's on Instagram, except for the colorization and the digitalization. So that's coming, which is fairly exciting. But there's going to be a lot of fun stuff, and it's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited. You're not going to do so me and Anton and Aaron have a chat, and I labeled it what I call it, the Horror Boys period Poker Palace. I just thought of the most fucked up shit I could think of.
Take from that what you wish.
I don't know why I was like, what's the weirdest name I can come up with? And I was like, what don't people like? Periods. Have you ever got your red wings?
So I was just going to say, someone once told me that a real pirate sails the Red Seas.
Yeah, I did it once I was 13, not my thing.
I seen a clip on TikTok, and it was from some one of those like bullshit, like, you know, like early 20s female podcasts that they have.
Yeah.
Like the I suppose like the female version of someone like Andrew Tate.
Oh.
And they were like talking something about like, oh, have you ever had sex when you're on your period? And the chick was like, yeah, all the time. And she was like, and I also give him head afterwards. She's like, yeah, I don't mind, whatever. And they're all like laughing and being like, yeah, it's cool, it's all good. It comes out of me, so what's the problem? I was like, that's fucking vile.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting.
That's fucked, man. It's not my thing. And I remember like a chick when I was like in my teenagers being like, I like my teenage years, like I like it. I'm like hornier during my period. I'm like, no, man, I don't want my. I'm not fucking
Grim.
Richard Ramirez. I don't want my dick covered in blood. I'm not Dahmer fucking the slits of dead bodies. So we want to kind of break it up because we do a lot of true crime. There's a big episode coming, a very big one of an interview we did with a convicted killer that is coming. That's a crazy episode. I'm kind of just building up to that, but I feel like we need a break from all the true crime. We did almost a 3-hour deep dive, actually, yeah, almost 4 hours deep dive into Jeffrey Dahmer. And we also have a fun Irish true crime coming too. That is also very fucked up. So I thought to break it up a little, we'll talk about some ghosts.
Something that I strayed away from in recent years, but I love the paranormal, ghosts, hauntings, anything like that.
So do I. I'm wearing my Ozzy Osbourne glasses right now.
I know, I was just looking at that there and I was like, I need to buy some like props for when we record so I can just have like random things.
I have so many weird things, man. Like
I do, but I don't know why I never get like, I'm never like, okay, let me put that on.
Aaron has the leprechaun in the background. I do not like it. It looks like it's staring at me into my soul.
And then I have that weird motherfucker on that side.
Oh yeah, is that from the House of Wax?
Yeah, Vincent.
I want to talk about that sometime. There's a lot of stuff coming, just so you guys know. Like, and the thing is, we might record, and you might hear an episode that we record in October come out in November, December, or January, just because the way we want to lay it out. We don't want to suffocate you too much with too much blood and guts, so we kind of have to break it up. And there's probably stuff coming for like the winter, but essentially should be a lot of fun going forward. And make sure to tune in to the Christmas live special. We're going to finalize a date, and we're going to also cover a big fun topic for our Christmas special, and it should be all four of us, which is going to be fucking awesome.
And we have a no hard liquor for Aaron.
No straight liquor for anybody. Yes, it's not for nobody, because I've made my mistakes. You've made your mistakes. Billy's made his own mistakes off the podcast of doing it, but that's why he just sticks to his fucking gross Sleeman beer. Which, speaking about beer, to bring us into this before we get in this spooky topic, I do have one of those howlers. That's it's called Howling at the Moon. It's not a howler, but it's called Howl at the Moon. It's 6% blood orange milkshake IPA. It's fucking awesome looking. It has a werewolf on it drinking beer. It's so rad.
Yeah, I don't have anything nearly as cool as that. It's just Heineken.
You have Heine. Good old Heine ho. I would love to get sponsored by some of these like brands.
I know, yeah.
Because we were always drinking and stuff like that. And you still have to send me that horror pack of beer or the serial killer beer.
I was only thinking about this the other day. I was like, I really want to get them. I need to get your address off you. Give me your address live on the show.
yeah, it's a bad idea. But this is kind of crazy. But there's a lot of stuff coming. Just I want to let people know that there's stuff on the way that I want to get you excited for, because we're doing some of the most in-depth, crazy episodes that we've ever done. And wait, I think I have. Oh, that's not Dead is Better. You're wearing your Talk to the Dead shirt?
Yeah, I was trying to, because I didn't actually know what it said, so I was trying to read it backwards on screen.
How? Yeah, you never worn it?
I know I have. I never looked at this part.
Clairvoyancy for beginners. I have a couple of those shirts. They're fun. They're like for the people, like the Spirit of Halloween kind of comedy horror shirts. I had like a Leatherface one, and it's like chainsaws for beginners or some shit. And it's fun.
I like them. Now I do know there's some people out there that talk. They're like, oh, they're trash designs, whatever. Anyone that hears this that can source or has one that they want to donate to me, I want that Don't Talk to Strangers alien one.
I have that one.
And also, nobody can talk shit about us having shirts like this or anything and being like it's cringy. You pointed this out to me a few weeks ago. I have the most cringiest thing on the planet in my possession.
It's a Spirit of Halloween hat.
So much fun. It's scary.
That is hilarious that you bought one of those, but you guys don't have that stuff in Ireland, right?
Yeah, so this was like when I have this here, like everyone's like, wow, cool, man. It's like retro. Wow.
We have it every year. And you know what? For all the fans, right? We hope you're the same, but essentially Halloween is every day for me, or at least every time we record some of these topics, because we do this all year round, and there's a lot of stuff coming. Don't think that we haven't forgot about aliens and conspiracies, because that is also coming. We're kind of building up through Halloween and stuff like that, through all the ghosty, paranormal, monster style episodes, but there's some fun conspiracy episodes we've been talking about. And there's a big alien abduction episode that is coming from me and Anton. It's a crazy case.
Yeah, well, I hope we get to open up the X-Files again. And speaking of the X-Files, actually, I had a little bit of a light bulb moment at one point. Maybe we can pick certain episodes of the X-Files, maybe one each or something that's our favorite. And my idea was to potentially be able to watch it with people and show the episode, but then have us commentate over it on like the real life basis for whatever that episode is about.
That's fairly cool. I like that idea. And like I said, I didn't watch the X-Files as much as I think that I should have.
I just cannot believe that. I really can't believe it is because of everything you're interested in. I'm just so surprised that the X-Files wasn't like your favorite show ever.
I watched bits and pieces of it, but I never got like fully engorged into it. And maybe it's just because it wasn't around me and stuff like that.
And to be fair, um, it was one of those shows. There's so many episodes and there's so many seasons that, like, if you didn't get it from the jump, it was one of those things I found. Even though it wasn't like it was all loosely connected, it was very hard to get into. Then after that point,
It's funny because my buddy gave me the movies to watch, and the movies kind of sucked.
first one's not too bad. The second one's
Yeah,
like,
it's and then I lost his DVD. It got stuck in my PlayStation, and I think it's still in there.
the
My
newest
PlayStation 4, not 5. That's
those newest seasons of the X Files actually weren't too bad when they brought them back there like a couple of years ago. And I think Disney Plus has all the seasons now.
well, we're gonna have to sit down and we're gonna have to watch them all together. Just spend all day sitting down. Sometimes when we record like that after that Dahmer episode, my knees hurt because I was like almost 4 hours. I was like, Jesus Christ. Let's just get right into this. So you know, welcome everybody to the podcast. You know what it is. We're talking about some ghost and ghouls on this one. This is actually less known, but one of maybe the most it's one of Britain's most haunted cases, you could say, or case of hauntings. One of them, actually.
See, you say it lesser known, and it probably is to a degree, but I feel like over this side of the world,
Yeah,
it's probably one of the more better known.
it is British, but some Irish stuff steps in.
Mm,
Yes.
an Irish granny.
Yeah, so before I bring in the full scope of what we're talking about, do you want to mention the show that they're doing, like the fictionalized story based on this sort of inspiration? I feel like it was.
Yeah, so there's a podcast that was brought out by I want to say Radio 4, BBC Radio 4.
Oh, Jimmy
Um,
Savile's crew.
Yep. Well, that kind of ruined that little promo anyway.
I'm just kidding.
So if you want to support and you agree with everything Jimmy Savile done in his life, you should listen to the show.
And if you're from America, you'll know BBC is Big Black Cocks.
Yes, it is. I've completely lost my train of thought now. Yeah, basically, it's a podcast series that kind of goes over the whole history of the story, but it mixes in, I guess, like a fictionalized audio drama aspect as well.
You said it was fairly good, right? Because that's what I
Yeah.
kept seeing. But this is a real story. But it was fictionalized to an extent for the BBC 4 thing, right? To an extent.
Yeah, so what the guy does is from what I gather, he goes back to like reinvestigate the story. Yeah, so it's a paranormal cold case reinvestigated through a thrilling blend of drama and documentary. The true story of one of Britain's strangest hauntings. So like it cuts between this audio drama and then you've got the host who actually goes to some of the places that were involved. He interviews the girl who is now like in her 80s.
Yeah, I saw a video of her. She looks frowny. You know those people that when they grow old, they get like the puppet mouth? Like the ventriloquist puppet mouth for everybody that's listening and not seeing what I'm doing. But if you think of like a ventriloquist puppet, how they just like their mouth seems to like sag into like a frown. She has that.
Yeah, she does. He interviews her, and he actually there's I guess a paranormal investigator that was involved in this story and had a massive amount of files and research done, and it was all put away in a box. And Shirley, which is the girl from the story, she had this box in storage for years. So this guy actually gets his hands on the box and he goes through all the research and like re-examines everything. He gets like a parapsychologist. He gets like some skeptics on as well, like people who don't believe in anything paranormal, and has them kind of reinvestigate the story in modern days, mixed with an audio drama kind of spliced in between.
That actually sounds fairly good.
It's a real, like I was listening to it and I was like, I feel like we could make a badass version of something like this of a different story, obviously. But I was like, this is a really cool idea.
And there's stuff coming for the show that all of us are pretty creative, and considering me and Aaron both want to be like directors and screenwriters and stuff like that, there might be coming stuff like that. Like most of the skits that you've heard on the podcast, even some of the stuff that when me and Juan did the Wendigo, and when me and Aaron or Anton did the Strange Mysteries of the Civil War, I wrote all the skits for a lot of the stuff that you hear. So it would be interesting to do even a short little story like that for YouTube or something like that. There is stuff in the works that you'll have to make sure you tune in, give us 5 stars because we appreciate it. So let's bring it in. Ghost stories have become urban legends all over the world, but few have sparked imagination, curiosity, and fear like the legend of the Battersea Poltergeist in London, England. Don't forget it's in England. Even if you haven't heard about this alleged haunting, you have probably seen films and read books inspired by the Hitchings family account. Their tale is one of the most terrifying ghost stories of our times. Yep, that's it. It's fucked.
So here's something I didn't know actually. That this story only in the last year or two is actually starting to pick up a lot of traction. Since this podcast was brought out, it's been nominated and is a finalist in the British Podcast Awards, the Audio and Radio Industry Awards, and the New York Festival's Radio Awards.
Wow, how do we not get any awards, man? We're doing grade A gold content. It's just some people get offended by it.
And in May of last year, it was picked up to be adapted into a scripted and unscripted series. 2 different adaptations are set to be released. One created by Maniac Productions and another by Blumhouse Productions, and both to be distributed on Peacock. The scripted series is titled The Battersea Poltergeist, and the unscripted series is called Blumhouse's Ghost Story.
Is that coming out, or is it not? Is it out already?
It doesn't say. The company's also secured the rights to the book called The Poltergeist Prince of London, The Remarkable True Story of the Battersea Poltergeist.
Awesome. What's up, Real Soul Rebel? You're probably new to the channel. This guy, he's just like harassing the chat. Awesome, though. I love it. Way we record usually for this is kind of like we don't really comment to the people because this is like essentially getting raw cuts, raw form of the episodes through Twitch. So now I have to cut this out. What's the time? But yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming, and Anton was also in the chats. Tom's pants are full of cream. That's nice, Anton. So that's crazy. Yeah. So did you ever see the raw cuts of the Spectrophilia episode? Where when I was telling Anton and Billy to fucking close it, I was doing like a conductor. I was like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
It's so hard sometimes.
I know. So Blumhouse is working on that now?
Apparently so.
We're beating him to the punch. I saw this and thought this was pretty interesting. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk about this. We haven't really talked about Poltergeist to an extent. We went pretty deep on the Haunted Ireland versus Canada, but this is something like a little different. So, according to the Hitchings family, the Battersea Poltergeist did much more than go bump in the night. What started as a small mystery became London's most famous, or rather infamous, spooky tale. It sparked controversy from a house in Battersea, London, all the way to the floor of the House of Commons, which is crazy that they talked about it within Parliament. Sounds nuts to me. When Shirley Hitchings awoke one day in 1956, her bedroom of her home at 63 Wycliffe Road, she found an ornate silver key on her bedside table, which was odd in itself. And it was what was more troubling, however, was the fact that the key did not fit any doors in her house. That shit is fucking freaky, man.
Because, and I probably wouldn't jump initially to being like, okay, there's some sort of like poltergeist or like ghost or whatever. No. But even just the fact that that happened, I'd be like, okay, what? Do I have some weird like Joseph Fritzl fucking room that I don't know about?
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Another thing I would love to talk about. We have yet to dive into I guess you could say sex dungeons, like, cause that's really that's kind of what it is.
Where do you think I am right now?
And your sex, yeah, but it's a sex attic.
I'm like Anne Frank.
Yeah, but it's it's the fucking. Give me a fucking second. What just happened? Give me 1 sec. I don't know where the fuck. What the fuck? Where open recent? Okay. Give me I don't know where the fuck my computer glitched out, and then give me 1 second. I don't know where the fuck is it. What's happening with this? That's so strange. This is fucking. Of course, that one fucking episode I need to fucking push out for this weekend. Okay, there it is. For some reason, like canceled out of my research. What the fuck? There it is. Anyways, your fucking thing is awful. Listen to this one.
No,
That's real
sorry.
crickets. Just joking.
Sorry.
Okay. Fucking back to it. God, I hate that I have to edit this fucking shit now. It's crazy that it is strange that this key just appeared. As mysteriously as the key appeared, it soon disappeared again. And I've never heard of necessarily a haunting where like an object appeared.
Yeah, that's because it's not really like shit moving around or like things been thrown around, but something to
Yeah.
like appear and then like kind of vanish and reappear somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's
And
like,
there's
was
like
it there all along?
well, those movies about like the skeleton key. Isn't that a movie? The skeleton. That's
Mhm.
even fucking weird, right? The fact that one key can open every room in the house. Strange, they might say. So
It's a good
when
movie.
yeah, is it good? I haven't seen like some of those early 90s films. Like I was rewatching Hide and Seek. Some of them
Mhm.
were like kind of creepy, man.
Yep.
But this was only the beginning of the Battersea Poltergeist legend. A tale of ghostly phenomenon, as Billy would say, phenomenon. Da, 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 da. That's fucking Billy's thing. That every time I say it, he has to do that. So it's part of who he is now. That the Hitchings family claimed lasted 12 years. That's a long time to have a fucking haunting. Like extremely long time. 12 years where you were harassed by a ghost. Because that's really what it was. It's an harassment.
Yeah, essentially, and like like it is. If you were to think about that, like imagine being harassed by a person or an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend or something for 12 years. That's a long fucking time. Like that's
Or you're
over a
harassed
decade.
by something that's invisible.
So
And we'll
like,
get into it, but like the mom kind of missed the ghost, which is fucking weird. We'll get into it, but also something like that I actually have had fans say that we should do, which I feel like maybe should be an all four of us thing, is Jeff the Talking Mongoose. That shit is fucking crazy.
mhm.
That's a poltergeist case, one of the strangest, I would say, poltergeist cases ever recorded, if it holds any validity. And I've had fans be like, you guys definitely have to cover that, especially knowing that I know that Billy has no idea about any of that case.
Which would be hilarious.
It would be fairly funny. So finding a key that doesn't unlock doors is certainly odd. But the Hitchings family said the real terror began the night the family awoke to loud banging. And strange loud banging, like bombing London suffered, like the family awoke to a strange loud banging. Like the bombing London suffered in World War II. According to Shirley, she said, I lived through the Blitz and I remember the bombs dropping. It's just the same level of noise. The sound was coming from the roots of the house. Oh, that went Spanish. I was like, I get British. How do you do a good British?
I was just gonna say, I was like,
that's fucking Australian. I have to have context of doing a British accent, and then
I
can you
can't do
it?
British. No, I can't do British because I'm Irish and we don't like the Brits because they enslaved us for 800 years. So
You still have to try a Canadian accent on a live special.
Yeah.
Try your best British accent right now.
British accent.
It's like next door to you to an extent.
Yeah, I know, but it's like one of those things. There's so many like
British.
variations of a British accent as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. She said, I lived through the Blitz Creek and I remember the bombs dropping. It was the same level of noise. The sounds was coming from the roots of the house. That was okay, I feel like.
That was a bit better. I'll give you that one. So that was actually a little bit better, to be fair.
And it's funny because the fans that are the true fans that have been here since the beginning and seeing the drunken shit show where this podcast started would know that we try to do accents all the time and we never did them well. Ever.
But you
In
see,
fact,
you're participating. That's the whole point.
I know it's all fun. In fact, the ruckus was so loud that neighbors began complaining because they thought Shirley's father, Wally, was experiencing some sort of episode and banging around the house in the middle of the night. Which is what kind of episode is he having? Is he like manic or something?
So
I get our Wally down there. He likes to bang on all the doors.
that went a bit like kind of reminded me of fucking like something from Wild Wild West. So in that Battersea Poltergeist podcast audio drama thing, they talk about that first night where all this shit starts to happen and like the neighbors show up and they're like, what the fuck are you doing in that house? And it's like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. So this guy actually goes back to the area where this all took place. Now the house has obviously been demolished like back in the 60s. So they find like the closest version of that style house.
Yeah.
And they conduct like a sound test. So he has these strange like kind of knocking noises and like these weird creepy noises. And he has his neighbors or people in other houses on that street. They're going to either message him or call him as soon as they can hear the sounds he's playing.
Oh, that's crazy. Because the neighbors heard this banging also.
So like I think he said like it went up to something crazy. Like it was like I don't know if I'm even saying this right, but something like 85 decibels or some shit. Like to the point where any sort of long exposure to that level of noise would like basically start fucking with your hearing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? And only at that point did they contact him and be like, yeah, I can hear it. And then they come back over to the house and like he's obviously got his microphone or whatever.
Because they're trying to replicate the original house.
And he's asking the neighbors and they were like, yeah, I could hear it, but it was like, it wasn't that bad. Like it just sounded like you were moving a chair or a table. So he kind of, from that, he sort of ascertained, he was like, how loud did that shit have to be? If I have got this to the point, like he blew his speakers and everything because he's laughing. He's like, I hope the budget for this show from the BBC is going to cover a whole new sound system.
That's crazy that that it had to be that loud is fucking nuts to me because like they're saying it reminded them of like the bomb raids and stuff like that during World War II, which was loud as fuck. It like would vibrate the ground and stuff like that. Like, which also I'd love to talk about the strange mysteries of and hauntings and stuff surrounding World War II is some
the idea that it's that loud actually has given me goosebumps. Like that you would be sitting in a house and it would be so fucking loud.
I feel and they're saying that it would disrupt your eardrums essentially, right?
Yeah, and like that whole thing then like that they heard like claw like scratching that was coming from like inside the furniture.
Because inside the house, the Hitchings family claimed they also heard scratching sounds. Animal activity could explain the scratching noises within the walls, but the family states these noises came from within the furniture. That's fucking weird, man. Like, and the thing is, imagine sitting on a couch and then you're like starting hearing some shit. I would think there's some sort of rat, which would be just as equally as frightening to me because I've seen a mouse or two in the houses I grew up in, but like a rat, like when if you lived in New York and some of the
No.
apartments, man,
Hell.
frightening. And the thing is too, we're just finishing up Guillermo del Toro's Cabinets of Curiosity, and there's that one episode where as the rat's coming through when he's like buried in these tunnels and it's kind of buried alive, so to speak. That shit is frightening.
Uh, I think people always, kind of think, oh, things like spiders, snakes, they're horrible and whatever, which I totally agree. And everybody's like, oh, rats, whatever. It's like, you ever see like a big motherfucking rat?
And or think about if they starve a rat, right? And the mafia did this, they
Mm-hmm.
would put them in essentially like a glass container over someone's stomach, and the rats will go right through your stomach. They don't give a shit. They'll find an
Yeah,
exit if they can.
they put it like two or three of them into a metal bucket and turn
And
it upside down on
yeah,
you,
and
and
I'm
then they
sure.
put heat.
Oh, it's heat. Yeah.
Yeah, and then because they're trying to get away from the heat, they'll start to like burrow
Oh,
through your
that's yeah,
body.
because they probably just sit dormant for a while. It'd take them a while to actually go and bury into your stomach, but I guess the heat would
Could you
drive
imagine
them.
how fucking grim?
Oh wait, I want to eventually talk about this stuff. It's coming on the show one day. Like, there's a million things that we have ideas for. We literally have a laundry, more than a laundry list, like 3 days worth of grocery lists, of stuff that we want to cover. Because even doing like the torture tactics that mafia members used in the mob would be fairly interesting, also. And I know there's probably some listeners out there that have rats as pets. I dated a girl that had a rat, and all it did was poop. It just climbed all over you and pooped. I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and then it crawled on my chest and shit on my chest.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I've heard of some people saying like that they potentially might have had a chick shit on their chest, but
yeah.
you had the chick's rat shit on your chest.
Have you never met someone that like has had a rat for a pet?
Yeah, I have, yeah. And I think
Yeah,
they're so I dated a chick it was like a really like long-term relationship, and her sister had like 4 or 5 pet rats, and they were fucking disgusting. They
yeah.
smelled like fucking
It's not a very
feet
good
and
pet,
like fucking
to
just
say the least.
horrible. Yeah, they were just horrible. I was like, why do you have these horrible bastards in your house?
So off topic, but even the people that own ferrets, like I feel like I knew someone in high school that owned a ferret. It's like they just steal all your shit, and then you're like frustrated trying to get to work and stuff. I'm sure
And
there's one person
also,
out there listening that has a fucking ferret or a fucking rat for a pet.
so my dad, for a long time had, he's always been into, like hunting, shooting, fishing, all that sort of shit, and has like had hunting dogs, all sorts of pets, birds, everything throughout his whole life. But he had a whole setup for ferrets. I don't know if anybody knows this, right? Ferrets can be fucking scary.
Did your
Like,
dad have a ferret?
yeah, like a shit ton of them, and he would have them like, yeah, like they get used for like
That's
hunting and
crazy.
like tracking rabbits and shit.
I could see
They,
that though.
dude, them things are fucking scary. I remember like trying to put my hand into like the little cages they were in, and they would go berserk. And he was like, "No, they'll literally tear the skin off your hands."
Why do people have this stuff as
I
pets?
don't
It's
know.
like
It's
the
just
people in the
fucking
States,
stupid.
like having like fucking, I got a lion in my backyard for some strange reason because I'm rich and don't know what else to spend my money on. All right, off this topic of animals because that's fucking weird. Sneak peeks into some Patreon stuff when we start doing some more Stranger Danger episodes, which are rant episodes, which we still need to get Billy to do on. And it progressively like gets worse. I think it's weird they're healing shit inside the furniture because I'd just be like, if I kept hearing it, I'd want to tear my furniture apart and be like, what the fuck is that thing?
Yeah,
That's a
there
weird
was
one. I've never heard of that in a haunting
yeah, same. And
ever.
there's a quote from Shirley when she gets interviewed like now in modern times, and
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it really kind of stuck with me, and it made it seem like, I don't know, a lot more sinister or something. She was like, um, it sounded to us as if the noises came from the bowels of the earth.
That's fucking frightening. Like, and I doubt this stuff is real, but you ever hear that tape of the recording of hell? And
Yeah,
it's someone probably created it. They supposedly lured this in some third world country. Put like there's a deep ass hole, and they for some reason put a microphone down there. And it's if somebody made this, which they probably did, it's a horrifying sound of just like guttural screams.
even you saying that now again, I feel like I'm mentioning my goosebumps an awful lot. that gave me chills again, just the thought of that.
It's funny that like that shows your senses are high. It seems like, and because of how much obviously I've talked about this in the show, nothing phases me anymore.
Oh
Honestly,
no,
unless
there's
we're talking about
certain things like that, dude,
really
that get me
scary shit.
fucked up.
I used to live for that stuff, right? Playing Ouija boards all the time and just doing stupid shit, trying to invoke things. So after 3 weeks of light noise disturbances and throughout the night, a lot of times it was like nightly, very like heavy banging and scratches and all sorts of scary sounds that it's frightening. The sleep deprived Hitchings family said it went from bad to worse. And to be honest, it would drive you insane to an extent. This idea of like torturing people with sounds, and then you have to think about what that thing is. And obviously in the realm of spirituality and duality and different realities and in general, right? That's a frightening thing to think like, is this thing dead or is it a being on another reality, which is a hot take, but like you don't know if these things are technically could be alive still in some other dimension. Where's my dun 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 button?
Yeah, I don't know, there's something different about this case, I find, from a lot of these supposed hauntings and poltergeists and whatever. The fact that the key disappears and it's like never seen again. The fact that it goes on for 12 fucking years is
12
like
years.
kind of unheard of.
Now, and pots and pans would hover in the air and slam into walls. That is fucking crazy. And you know what a great movie to be talking about for your show? You ever seen Dark Skies? One of the most frightening alien horror movies to like I think exist, and when it comes to abduction and haunting.
I want to say yes, but I'm not sure.
There's a scene in this movie where I think it's the mother walks into a room and everything, like all the pots and pans within the kitchen, are just hovering there. And then she's like, kind of like, what the fuck? And they all slam to the ground all at once, like they were hooked up to a magnet. It's fucking.
I think I have seen that. I don't know if you'll remember this, but is the artwork for that like a person, a woman, or something like floating?
It's a kid. Yeah, it's supposed to be the son.
Okay. Yeah. I think I vaguely remember.
You should revisit that shit, and we should talk about it on your show because it's crazy. Like, and this reminds me of this idea of like, and it says that they had to like duck and shit when they're like, they would duck out of the way from these like pots and pans, which is like, when do you think you should probably leave? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if someone was throwing shit at me, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to live here anymore. But if you're stuck.
Yeah, so this is where I suppose I started to think and go, okay, play devil's advocate here for a second. The spirit, which they later named Donald.
Yeah, Donald Duck.
After Disney's bad-tempered Donald Duck. That's actually pretty good.
Really? That was awful. I'm like trying to force that out of my fucking just throat.
I don't know. Just
it's a weird name for a ghost.
Yeah, but does that not that whole thing not seem weird to you in the first place? Like, let's say for example, you and Chelsea are in your place and you start to get fucking haunted or fucking whatever by this spirit.
Does it say? And I might get into it through some of the research I have. But do they ever say why did it give him the name, like playing a Ouija board or? Not that
so if you listen to that podcast, apparently it reveals itself to be, I think, a Spanish man
with the name Donald.
Yeah, and
shouldn't his name be like Rodriguez or something?
Some other name and shit like that. That's all the same thing, isn't
it? Yeah. It's just a joke, everybody. You can call me and Aaron are probably the same. We're both white, but you're from one place, I'm from another.
We're both crackers.
Yeah, you can call me a cracker. I love that shit. If
I don't know. There is a lot of things though. I'm just going to play devil's advocate just for the sake of the episode, but I I don't know. I just find it strange, like that if they were so afraid, and there's quotes like, "Oh, it sounded like it was coming from the bowels of the earth,"
That
and
shit's
stuff like that.
fucking nuts.
And they're talking about hell and different shit like that. And oh, this is one of the most strange and chilling hauntings in British history. Then they're naming the motherfucker Donald, and like you said, the mother's like, oh, I kind of missed it. And Shirley says at one point that her dad's slippers used to just walk
Oh yeah, we're
around
gonna
the
get into
room.
that.
And then
Let's
she also
I
said
can't
though that
wait to get
she
into that.
would follow them, and she was like, it became like a little bit of a game every week. I would like follow his
Yes.
slippers
I
down the
saw a
hall.
news article on that, so it's
Uh,
crazy.
I mean, I maybe this is just me, but I know right now if some of my shoes started to walk around the floor and all my shit starts flying around the room, the
Yeah.
last thing I'm doing is nicknaming the motherfucker and running around after him playing a game.
Yeah. Come here, Donald.
Like I would shit my
Do you
pants.
think he grabs him by the pussy?
Maybe I don't. It just the whole thing seems so bizarre to
I
me.
know, and she seems genuine, and like to be honest, it is like she seems pretty genuine, and along with the Hutchins, other witnesses claimed that the Battersea Poltergeist went from making noises to making objects fly through the air for no apparent reason. So it leads me to believe that other people did see this. And they're like, and the thing is too, right? This idea, it names itself usually these entities. Like it does remind me somewhat of like Jeff the Talking Mongoose kind of thing, where this guy's like, I'm Jeff. I'm Jeff. What's that fucking movie with everyone sounds like, I think I sound like him, Jonah Hill, and then Channing Tatum. He's like, Hefe, you ever fucking seen that shit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
yes.
I
Stupid
don't know.
joke.
There's something. I don't know.
You don't
This
believe
case.
them?
No, it's not that I don't believe them, but the more I think about some of the things, and then I'm like, maybe is that like a way of like a coping mechanism? Are you trying to like
Yeah.
over familiarize the whole thing to be like, haha, look, that's just Donald smashing up the whole house?
Oh,
And
what the mother ends up doing? Yeah, I feel like this is the same thing, right? You're like much like how sorry, I got to mention this, but much like how people view the government as some sort of Stockholm syndrome victim, where they're like they're doing the best for me, like you just cope with what you're dealing with, and this
and
is
it's
the same
just
even
like for
for
some
this.
people easier maybe to get through it by like
Mentally, yes, in the people's that their psyche and their minds, 1,000%. Uh, it's crazy because I was just about to mention that too. Like Shirley's glove slapped her father in the face. I tried to slap myself. That actually kind of hurt. Um, as if it was worn by an invisible hand. Like that shit is fucking weird. It reminds me of some sort of cartoony movie where like you see the glove fly and you're like, oh shit, that's fucking weird. And then it kind of comes closer and then it just fucking whaps you. And it's just like, Jesus, man. It's pimp hand strong, man.
oh, also why does it always seem to focus on the kid?
Everything, and that's why you can claim, because I eventually want to talk about the Enfield poltergeist. Isn't that the
Hmm.
one that the Conjuring 2 or 3 is based on?
Yeah, yeah.
That one seems to be a little fake, like the Warrens. To it seems like there maybe it holds some validity, but they over exaggerated the story.
Yeah, but sure, didn't they find out? Like, didn't wasn't there a whole thing about that? And like one of the kids, the little girl, like it found out that she was like doing a lot of this shit as well. She
Yeah,
was
for
like,
attention.
yeah, she was like making it worse than it was, kind of. And there was
Yeah.
times where they actually found out that like she was like putting on a performance or whatever.
Yeah, but what if the ghost told her to act it out? The ghost is like, you could be the next Marilyn Monroe if
You
you
see,
just fucking act this up.
this is the interesting and infuriating thing about a lot of these stories and cases is there is no real answer.
No, there's
Because
not. And how do we
an
know?
argument could, yeah, like an argument, you could literally make an argument, a really good argument either way.
It is true because I tend to believe in the fantastical. I would like these to be true, but I'm not going to say because I've had my own experiences, right? So, like, I've always said this on this podcast that if I've had my own stuff, I've seen shadow people, I've seen weird, crazy things in my lifetime, especially when it comes to like the Ouija board and ghosts and If I want someone to believe me, if you sound sane and you're not a raving lunatic, I would like to trust that you would also be telling the truth, so to speak, about people that tell these stories or even alien abductions and stuff that people claim they see, hear, are involved in. I claim to I will believe the latter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm definitely the same, and
I'll climb up
not
that
to
ladder.
not to sound cringy, like, but I want to believe in it as well. Like I'm not necessarily.
Yeah, the scariest thought is that
I
we're
do,
all just gonna die and be in the ground. The
yeah, like I do
existentialism is a
definitely
fucking
have I don't know. I do have a skeptical side of me. Like, there's times where I like to kind of like play the devil's advocate and be like, yeah, but what if this and what if that? And I
yeah.
think that makes for interesting dialogue. But I do definitely want to believe in a lot of these things. Like, I don't want to believe that like they just made up this big fucking
No,
story to
and
like.
we have Billy, who is skeptical, and I think because he's afraid. I think you're afraid, Billy. I think he's afraid of facing the idea that there is stuff beyond our reality. And Anton, like to an extent, kind of does it, but he's like more skeptical. Is like he needs his own proof, which like Occam's razor, where they want to see it to believe it, but at the same time, you can't always see to believe. It's like when Jesse Ventura broke into David Icke's fucking. I don't know if you ever saw this, but when Jesse Ventura was doing his conspiracy show,
Mhm.
like broke into David Icke while he was like when David Icke was going on stage behind the scenes, like show me the lizard people, and it's like I can't show you. I'm about to go walk on stage and do a talk for all these people, and you're gonna come at me right now. Show me the lizard. I can't do it, fucking Jesse Ventura, but it's just like I'm the governor. Show me these lizard people, and it's just like he can't do it. He can't just be like,
But
here's a reptilian.
yeah, and also like not to get overly off topic, but
Yeah, yeah. I think it
somebody like
ties in a bit.
somebody like Jesse Ventura is a proven lunatic.
Yeah, he's fucking
So
crazy.
like he is literally what you've just talked about a second ago. He is a raving lunatic who is, I don't care, maybe people disagree with me. He is riding off the coattails of people who actually have something to say and
100%.
doing that. Like, and he kind of reminds me in a way of like someone like Piers Morgan, where he's just like the contrarian character. And it's like, oh,
He was a
fuck off.
wrestler. All
Yeah, I
he
know.
knows is how to act and be fake.
And it's
Essentially.
just like that whole thing with him is just so fucking. And like Piers Morgan does that as well, where he has people on his
Oh,
show
for
from
sure.
different things, and he's such a fucking whiny bitch, and he just like does that thing where he's like, yeah,
Yeller.
but uh,
But
prove to me, and it's like, well, what are you talking about? Like, we're sitting in a fucking studio on a talk show, like what?
I can't like I saw shadow people 1,000%. It was the most frightening experience I've had in my life. I felt like my soul was being ripped out of my body.
Yeah, but
And
show them to me, Tom.
yeah,
Show them to me, or it
it's just
didn't
like
happen.
how do I don't even want to be in that headspace of what brought them there because I was super low after my friend got left in Cuba. You can listen to the Shadow People episode. I go full detail, but that is something I've like Chelsea's like you used to tell the story all the time. I'm like because it was fucking significant. It made me realize that there is something beyond this world that I can't explain. Instead of our eyesight and stuff, I can't explain it.
And it's like that. I'm probably gonna butcher this quote or whatever, but it's that thing of like if a tree is cut down in the middle of a forest or whatever, and there's
Will
no one
anyone hear
around,
it?
does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Does
does
it
it still
make a
make a
sound?
noise? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
it is
true.
that thing. Like, I mean,
Of reality, it's fucking
I can
crazy.
I can sit here and say, no, Tom, that didn't happen.
Yeah, but I know what happened. I felt like I was getting fucking like my soul was getting ripped out of my body. That's to me how it felt. It was fucking frightening. So if this is real, then it's just like according to what I saw in her testimony and stuff like that when she was on like some sort of talk show, like she seems like frightened of that this happened to her in her life.
Well, she had said for a long time that she didn't want to talk about it because for fear that she might like bring it back.
Invoke it, yeah, because you could technically because you're bringing those energies around you, and I feel like these spirits do prey on people who have low vibrations. The whole family is chewing mushrooms. I doubt that they the ghosts were to fuck with them. But like if you're a happy go lucky where you're legitimately your vibration is that like happy positive shit, I feel like it would be hard for some spirits to attach to you. And a lot of some of these like maybe not this one, but there's a lot of them that are like broken families and a lot of stuff's going inside the family home and unit for essentially a spirit you'd think to prey on or to exhume the energy from. Maybe
I would like to say, I'm sitting here thinking like I would love to have an
that
experience
happened to
like
you.
this. But then
It's
also
not
I
fun.
probably wouldn't. And I find a lot of times that people always say, yeah, but what about these guys who go and like, follow up on these cases and go to these haunted places and try and connect with whatever's there.
Yeah.
Well, we never really see anything or we never hear anything. And I feel like there's an idea there maybe of, yeah, but maybe that's not how that works though. Like,
No.
it's a case of like these people weren't sitting around with fucking meters and stuff, yeah,
EVPs and
and
fucking
like
yeah.
trying to like do a thing. This was something that like was a natural
No, it's true
progression that
because
somebody's
you're not
had.
gonna get it if you ask for it, right? It's
Yeah,
like
and that's why I
it's
feel
you're
like a lot
thinking
of
you're
that
gonna
stuff is
find your
bullshit.
one true love. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna find my one true love soon. And it's just like, no, it's not gonna happen. You gotta like that they always say like fucking what is it? Don't go looking for it and it'll find you. It's kind of the same thing, right? Because so this
Like,
seems like
don't get me wrong. I would love for all of us to be able to travel to supposed
oh,
haunted
I would love
places,
to do that.
etc., and have weird experiences or make some sort of contact with something. But I do believe sometimes that maybe provoking them in that like
Like
over
Zach Baggins, like yelling at them.
yeah, like that over sensationalized like
Show
mainstreamy
yourself,
thing
ghost.
is
Yeah.
the exact reason why I think somebody like him has never had a real experience, because he's just doing that like Hollywood bollocks.
No, and I agree. And obviously we're gonna get in some different conversations when it comes to like ghosts. But this idea, right, that like I've always said if you have a room full of, I don't know, like young kids like we were, or like some young girls that are like, hee, like we're gonna play the Ouija board and we're gonna have fun laughing, haha, sleepover, and then you actually get plagued by something because something is gonna take advantage of you. And I do believe there is danger and it is dangerous to use occult materials. I started using the Ouija board when I was like 12. I got like obsessed with that stuff. It's dangerous. And the thing is, but I would still do it. If me, you, and Anton, and we could convince Billy to come along, we're in a haunted location, I would bring one of my Ouija boards and I would be like all for it. And the thing is, because of my mental state now, things can follow you, but I do believe that if you do the right at least mentally, like tell something to fuck off, I think it will. But I can't say that because the Ouija board did tell me I have 9 things attached to me, and that some were good and some were bad. So I was like, I could
I
stop. I
really,
could
I
have
really
20 now.
want, I really want a board, to be honest with you.
I have 3 that have been
And
used. They have stains on them and shit. It's fucked.
I was going to pick one up when I was in the States a couple of months ago, and my my girlfriend was like, "No fucking way! There is literally no way that you're buying that, bringing it back,
Thing is, I
having
have
it
3 that
anywhere
I've
near
used,
me."
right? I have 3 that I've used. One for my grandmother. One was given to me by someone, and Chelsea's mom gave me one. So, like, I don't even remember where the third one came from, to be honest. Oh, I think someone at work gave me it. This old lady I used to work with gave me her Ouija board, which is crazy. And they're all from 3 different locations. And we used it the other day as a tray for the dip after my mushroom trip that I had for my birthday.
Nice.
We used it as a tray to put the dip on. We're eating salsa dip. And I was like, Chelsea's like,
Oh,
the only thing we have up here. I was like, I don't want to go downstairs and get some. I'm too lazy. And because we were upstairs, and she's like, well, you have your Ouija boards. And I was like, why not?
you're after disrespecting
They
the
probably don't. And
spirit
it's still
world
in my
now.
room right now. I've slept with it the last 2 days, like on my fucking bedside table. And the thing is, it would be funny if like we put the salsa on, the chip starts floating and feeding me. That would be awesome though. So let's get back to this because it's crazy because these haunting things make me dive into my thoughts of like what I've experienced as a kid. And obviously, as me and you are becoming more and more fucking besties, we're trying to like we pick each other's brains. And there's some topics that are coming that me and Aaron haven't yet to cover, which might fucking be hours long because of how we talk in such
Hmm.
context of in depth about things. So the slippers begin walking, which is also another interesting thing when it comes to a haunting is having something like the invisible man. To me, that's what it's like some sort of invisible man walking in your shoes, which is a frightening thought in general too. That's fucking weird. And then didn't she say you said she followed them?
Yeah, so apparently she said,
Uncle
and she was
George is
like,
playing a fucking game with me.
And she's like, after a while, it became like a kind of a game, and like I would like follow them and see where they would stop, and a lot of times they would go out to the front door and stop right there, and
No,
like she's kind of
they
like
lead
giggling about
perfectly
this,
into the shower.
and like she's like kind of giggling, and I'm like, is this just like your way of coping with this? Like when you see people who are like severely fucking depressed or have like suffered like shit tons of abuse, and they're kind of like numb to
She
it.
was 12 at the time, right? That's the time I started using the Ouija boards. I was like fascinated by this shit. So if you
Yeah, but do you
think
not think though, right? If you use that Ouija board when you were 12 and like all the shit in your house started floating around
I'd
and like,
freak out,
whoever you
out.
were living with at the time, whether it's your grandparents or your parents or whatever, and they're getting like slapped in the face by your gloves and shit,
At
that
the
you wouldn't
time,
shit your pants.
I probably would have applauded the ghost if she slapped my mom. I love my mom now, but we had a very tumultuous relationship when I was a teenager because I was a fuckhead. I just never did what I was told. All my friends were hanging out at other people's houses, so I snuck out in the fucking middle of the night. I was a bad son for a while.
Maybe that's
But
because you used the board.
it could have been. I felt, and I've said this, I felt cursed for a while of like my surroundings. We lived at a place called 13 Bailey Street, and the 13, it was a bad omen. It felt like it was a lot of bad things happening in the house. And the thing is, that's why I'm wondering if these people walked in. You don't know sometimes, to be honest. Like if you walk into a house and you buy it, do you even know if that's haunted? Because I've talked about this so many times in the show, but how in depth the conversation of poltergeist, hauntings, stuff can go. Because the Ouija board did tell me when I was like 17, and I would like play the Ouija board drunk, which is so stupid if you think about it in retrospect, like 16, 17. And they started telling me like, we couldn't tell you this when you were younger, but like, there's alien, like we are actually still alive and we're aliens. At one point in time, the Ouija board told me it was a reptilian. And then I was like, kind of like half in the bag, like, and I felt my hands being pulled, whatever, if it's my subconscious or whatever. I used to use it a lot. And then I just go back to it, like, whatever, let's just see what happens. And I was in a bad mental state, and that shit's like, I wish I didn't do that type of shit because it's frightening.
Yeah, and I have a theory about that. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen all that stuff that like debunks the whole Ouija board thing and that whole like I suppose I don't know, like a shared delusion, and like one person will kind of be guiding the thing, and everybody else's
Yeah.
hand will be following it, and people allow themselves to believe that there's some uh, exterior force doing it. But then there's the flip side of that. Okay, let's say it is something in the subconscious or whatever. But what are you tapping into there, unlocking, that's causing that to happen that way? That's the thing I'm
Yeah.
interested by. Like, let's say, okay, people say, oh no, it's not a fucking ghost or a demon. It's not Hollywood. Okay, right. Let's just say for a second that I'm sitting there with the board, and like you said, you feel your hands being drawn or moving in a certain way. Okay, why is that then?
It felt like it was pulling my hands. And I've said this story, obviously, all the listeners know. My Jamaican aunt told me not to play it, and I went home and I played it by myself. She told me not to play it by myself. She's like, baby boy, you can't be messing around with that stuff. Da, da, da. Like, I can't do her fucking accent. She has like a slight accent. I do have like some Jamaican family. She was telling me like that she used it in Jamaica, and I don't know if it holds any validity. She's super Christian. And I said on the Halloween episode that it sounded like she was taking her notes from The Exorcist, because she was talking to a cowboy that told her not to eat and drink. I think she was just trying to scare me out of using it. And then she's like, you should never use them by themselves. So my curiosity sets in, and I would go home, use it by myself. And I felt drawn to it. And it's like, what is that of the subconscious that does that? And I know that I felt my hands being pulled. Like, and I did it by myself, which is a no-no, because essentially when the spirit is going through all those people, or the entity or whatever it is, it has to travel through. The more people you have with your hands lightly resting on the planchette, the more power it can take, because these spirits use us as sort of like, because your body is filled with electricity. Your heart is electric, like everything in your body is like electric in some sense, and frequencies. So it uses all of us, but the fact to use one person, there's nowhere for it to go and leave. So no wonder I have all these spirits attached to me. It's fucking weird, right?
The more you talk about it, the more intrigued I am, and the more I'm like, I really, really want to buy a board.
I dive deep into that stuff by myself many times when I was a teenager with bad mental health and drinking all the time. It's fucking crazy. And even the idea, like me and Anton talked about, the scrying mirror. I want to do that just to see if it's real, because you can supposedly talk to your higher self also, not just some entities. You can invoke demons. That's a bad thing to do, but you can also like supposedly talk to higher realms of consciousness. It's fucked, eh? The scrying board is something that's I wanted to get into when I was younger and never did, which I should probably be glad that I didn't go any further into the occult.
Dude, I swear to God, shit like this gets me like fucking blah.
That's why I like this. It's fucking, this shit drives me. Like I get my juices going and I'm like, this shit's my jam, man. I've always said, before conspiracies, before state of the government and reptilians and aliens, it was fucking paranormal, ghosts, all that shit is what really turned my mind on to be like, things are not what we understand that they are. So, and this is Shirley crazy, isn't it? Don't call me Shirley. I want to make that joke way earlier. I didn't. Allegedly, the Hitchings entered Shirley's room in her bedroom one night, only to find her levitating above her bed, which is fucking nuts to me. It's just like, what? She was, while floating in the air, her back arched, and the sheets were apparently ripped off her body by an invisible force. Now, that is some like exorcism of Emily Rose shit. That movie haunted me when I was a kid.
Yeah, same.
We actually called Emily Rose on the Ouija board because we watched this movie and we thought it was real, which is actually based on Anna Uckley, I think. There's some exorcism stuff that will come down the road on our show. And but supposedly when we talk to this girl, she ended up like saying, she's like, I'm not the real. And she told us this, which is weird. Where is this subconsciously coming from if it is just us? Because she said she was a woman or a chick named Emily Rose who committed suicide in Brampton. None of my friends have been to Brampton. Brampton is near Toronto. We call it Bramladesh because a lot of Indian people live there. That's just a fact. It's that a lot of they segregate towards that location near Toronto. And none of us knew the location or ever been there. And she lived in Brampton. It's not fucking weird. So we invoke something that we didn't even know of, really. So fucking strange. I'm getting this fucking deep conversation. I'm like, oh fuck. I wanted some banter, but man, when you bring up the ghost stuff, it really gets my hair raising. And then the sheets were apparently ripped off, which is fucking crazy. If this holds any validity, if any of this stuff is real, I couldn't fucking imagine walking into my kid's room and her being possessed by like just floating in the air, and then her like back arches like she's in The Exorcist. That's fucked.
I don't know. This whole story is so weird, and I keep harkening back to that podcast. And
well, if they did a good job, like
and the files that I was talking about, they're the detailed files of a 1950s ghost hunter called Harold Chibbett. Yeah, he helped the family, interviewed surviving witnesses, including Shirley, who was accused at the time of causing this phenomenon. The podcast producer and presenter Danny Robbins, who spent 2 years analyzing the case, and concludes, it's the closest thing I've come to proof that there is something more, that
that's
ghosts
crazy.
Exist. Speaking to Shirley sent shivers down my spine. If true, the implications are extraordinary. What's so fascinating is this tension between what we can potentially discount and what nothing can explain. The real fear comes from the fact that Shirley is entirely ordinary. If it can happen to someone like her, it could happen to anyone. And then he kind of talks about the fact that, like, once this all kind of fizzled out, like, she met her husband, they moved away. She never wanted to talk about it, be interviewed about it, have anything to do with it.
If you were legitimately traumatized by this happening to your life in 12 years of it, I would want to be distanced far enough away. And that makes me think that it's more real, because people that are fake, the Warrens, in some points, I believe that they saw some shit, and I believe they had some occult possessed objects, but you want fame, essentially. You want it to become famous, even if you are lying about it. You want that fame and fortune, maybe.
So there's another guy, the guy I mentioned earlier, the parapsychologist, Dr. Kieran O'Keefe, who investigates psychic phenomena and paranormal. He describes himself as an open-minded skeptic who believes paranormal activity should be thoroughly tested to see whether there could be an alternative explanation. And while some of the poltergeist activity in Battersea could be attributed to human meddling and natural causes, he says other elements in this case remain a complete and utter mystery to this day. Not all of it is likely to be supernatural, he says, but nor is some of it easily explained or explainable at all. There are multiple witnesses. Some events defy the laws of gravity. It's arrogant not to keep an open mind, especially with this case. Which
That's
is
fucking
like,
weird.
which is freaky. Like, and this guy, he did, he dives into the idea of, I suppose he's kind of playing both sides of the coin, where he kind of talks about the fact that they didn't sleep for days on end, and that could potentially lead them to, I don't know, like a shared delusion, and
I
shit
was
like that.
yeah, and that's I was watching something on that too. The how if you're in fear, right? What that
Yeah.
would do to your system. And like if you could think you see and hear things from obviously there is a part of me that would want to try to stay up as long as possible. Like I've been sending you episodes of Kenny versus Spenny. You should fucking watch that. They have an episode where it's like who can stay awake the longest, and eventually like they feel like they're going crazy at one point.
So years ago, and this is like one of those fucking like jackass WWE, like, don't try this at home. I had taken, when I was like really big into drinking and shit,
Mhm.
and I used to have an issue sometimes with like panic attacks at night. So I took sleeping tablets one night, like a couple of like pretty strong sleeping tablets, and then for some reason I had worked myself up so much that I didn't go asleep. Dude, I swear to God, right? I thought I was in another dimension. I was like seeing fucking like spiders coming down the walls and like
Like
shit up in like,
legitimately, like
yeah, like genuine. I remember like being, and it was like this weird like fever dream where I felt like I knew what was going on, but I was also like, what's that weird black shit coming out of the corner of the room? And it's like
that's
freaking out.
crazy.
Like, yeah, it was fucking freaky.
And that's what I've never seen shit like that on mushrooms. Mushrooms is like a different beast, and you can dive deep into your brain and see like some trippy ass cool things, but it's not like what people think it is. Like if you've never done them, it's not this fucking. You just see vibrations of stuff and things shimmer, as Anton says is a good word for it. But it's crazy because even like this idea of her being like possessed by something, or at least something's attacking her. According to the family, they had a tug of war with an unseen force while trying to put the like when they were trying to like get her off the bed sheets and calm like get her down from like away from this. So essentially, like they were pulling on the bed sheets and it looked like it was like a tug of war. But I wonder if they're trying to pull on her while the bed sheets was still kind of on her. But and then Shirley back on the bed she recalls, I remember the sheets coming off me and being tossed around in the bed. I was floating above the bed when my brother John pulled me down. I was rigged. My nan, who was a Catholic, thought I might be possessed by the devil. I thought I was going mad, that I was crying all the time. I was very traumatized. I tried to keep it. I was like, this is going somewhere else. Here, let me say that again. I remember when the sheets were coming off and being tossed all around the bed. Sorry, this went fucking Latin. But this reminds me of like they must have used this in a movie, or gained inspiration from one of those Exorcist movies. Because I remember there is one where they're like trying to pull somebody down that's like levitating essentially. From what I can kind of remember.
I again, like, I don't know. Every time I hear about all these different occurrences, I'm trying to rationalize it, but then the other side of me is like, but it doesn't explain how there's like so many different witnesses and it went on for so long. Like, I mean, even if it was a hoax, like a lot of times when things have been proven to be a hoax, it's not going to last over a decade. Like, what sort of elaborate, like, fucking mastermind geniuses do you have to be to run a hoax for over a decade?
You know what? I didn't know, but I was right. Because of the violent nature of the attacks, the family nicknamed the spirit after a character known for his ill temper. They began referring to the spirit as Donald Duck, or Donald, and we mean Donald Duck. According to the research I have, they called him Donald because of his ill temper, because Donald Duck seems to be always angry. Which, if you think about the cartoon, he's kind of mad all the time, making his quacking sounds.
That whole story when the Chibs guy, that's what he like to be referred to as. Like he went to stay in their house and shit.
I would do that.
He didn't charge anything because they were like, "Look, we don't have any money to pay you," and he's like, "I'm not. What am I gonna? You think I'm gonna charge you?" He was like, "No." He was like, "I'll work this around my day job. I want to do this because I want to pull back the veil behind." He apparently he sat Shirley down one night in the kitchen because she was like, "What's your game here? Like, why did you want to help? Why do you want to be involved and like stay in the house? Why are you so interested in this?"
To me, it says he's trying to prove the existence of the afterlife, and it would last him a lifetime, according to what I have.
And then I found this kind of, I suppose, interesting and then quite chilling in a way. And I can only imagine when like you were a kid, if this dude done this to you, that's a supposed ghost hunter. He sat her down in the kitchen
and touched her on her panties.
He touched me here,
yeah,
here, and here. He sat her down and he said, "Okay, I want you to be quiet for a second." He's like, "Do you hear that?" And she's like, "I don't hear anything."
That's me whacking off.
And he's like, "Exactly." He was like, "That's the screams and the sounds of all the dead souls."
What? He said that to her. Fucking Chibi?
Yeah. And she was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "That's what I want to uncover. Is that void between the living and the dead. That's why."
Why is he telling that to her?
I have no idea. Apparently, she kept questioning him about it because he had told her and told the family that in these poltergeist cases, a teenage girl always seems to be at the center of it.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Because they can be more vulnerable and different things like that. And then they had arranged for her to be an exorcism to be performed on her.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, I found that whole thing. I'll let you talk about that, but I found that whole thing so weird.
So it gets crazier and crazier, and this is one of the most bizarre even cases that we've kind of covered in a while, especially when it comes to hauntings. Like spectrophilia is one thing; it's a bunch of horny women wanting to be fucked by a ghost. But like this shit is weird because Chibbett explained to the Hitchings that they had been suffering from a poltergeist. A poltergeist haunting usually revolves around a teenage girl, including the physical movement of innate objects. But this did not calm Shirley. Instead, she became scared and said, "This is the end. We're all going to die. This is the end. We're all going to die." That's what. See, it goes Spanish for some reason all the time. So strange. I just gotta think of the little queen, the reptilian queen, like oh, I actually used to be able to, like, Chelsea does a pretty good British accent. She can get me going, and because I have to hear it first, and then like the one day me and Billy did, which will eventually be coming out I think it's on the Patreon now for a Lost Tapes episode. We talked about the strange mysteries of World War, and we practiced a German accent for like 20 minutes outside smoking cigarettes.
Yikes!
That's how fucked we were back in the day, man. And so, because she keeps thinking, like, who knows, right? She's a little girl, and she's screaming that we're all gonna die, kind of shit. And it's just like, are you doing this for attention at all, or is this like a real thing? Or, it's strange.
And I mean, look, actually, pull that back up again. So I want you to do something, right? I want you to read out, see underneath where it says, "Are they a strange force that lurks in all of us?"
When Shirley Hitchings viciously attracted, what? Viciously? Is that a word?
Apparently.
Vivcuciously. I'm butchering this. Essentially, the article says, when Shirley Hitchings, a vigorous, that's what I would pronounce it, because it's not vigorous, it's vivaciously? That's a weird word to use during this article. So we're pulling up an article for all listeners today, audio listeners today, and it says, begins today, poltergeist, and it shows a picture of Shirley. Are they a strange force that lurks in all of us? And then it says, when Shirley Hitchings, a vigorously attractive 15-year-old of Wycliffe Road, Battersea, was thrown out of bed for the first time, she didn't worry too much. She didn't worry about it too much. What?
That's
What?
a really weird thing to put in an article.
And this is from the Sunday Graphic.
That's probably run by fucking Jimmy Savile.
Shirley Hitchings hurled from her bed by a poltergeist. That is
Sex-
weird, that the fact that they need to even mention like that she is vivaciously attractive, because that's literally what it says, vivaciously.
Sexy 15-year-old haunted by poltergeist.
This is like, this is gonna draw in our fucking
It's a
our
fucking
readers.
weird thing to put in an article.
I didn't even notice that. That's fucking crazy. Just restlessly as she shot that she climbed back when it happened again. After the bedclothes had been dragged from her, she began to worry. Then she found that she was almost always accompanied by strange tapping noises, which followed her on the bus and to her work, and she worried even more. And when a few days later, a bundle of laundry began smoldering on the kitchen floor. Oh, we gotta get into that too, because that shit's coming too. So we're just kind of reading the article that I pulled up. That's fucking weird.
Also, I don't know, maybe it's just like the scan of that, but I felt like that was like some weird fucking like thing where the words were getting smaller and smaller. It was like one of those eye tests.
Does this also call her attractive? It's like, because I have a couple of like real
Mystery
life...
noises that haunt sexy
Sure.
Shirley.
Yeah, it's not. It says mystery noises that haunt Shirley. It would be funny if they did that too. It's just like, man, something's wrong with British newspapers. And that's from the Daily Mirror reporter. A girl who is followed wherever she goes by mysterious tapping noises has been told, stay away from work until the tapping stops. We don't want other employees upset by them. So it's just like,
Okay, so if she was getting told to stay at work, I wonder if she get paid leave.
that's crazy. That started when, yeah, I know, when she started when she was 12, and this was still happening when she started to have a job at 15, according to
Which
these
is
articles I'm pulling
fucking-
up, because I
Honestly,
found
right.
like old legit articles from this case.
I think if it was to the extent that these people were being fucked with, I think I'd be after and I don't mean to make light of this, but I'd probably be after killing myself at this point.
Like I said at the beginning, the noises stuff can drive you insane. I've said this story before. We held down my friend and we did the Chinese torture to him. We just poked his forehead like nonstop. Just like kept poking his forehead nonstop. We held him down on a trampoline and just kept doing it. And he fucking cried and ran away and said his mom was calling it. It's like, your mom is like 3 blocks away. How can your mother be calling you? This is before cell phones, kids. Fucking, so we tortured my fucking friends. It's crazy. Like some of these, like the fact that it was all in the newspapers, like that it was publicized, like it was out there. And so then the Hitchings family decided to take drastic measures. As fate would have it, the Hitchings, their father, Wally Hitchings, worked with a medium named Harry Hanks. You can't have two first names. It's not a thing. Harry Hanks?
Yeah,
That sounds like a porn star's name.
Harry Wanks.
Here come Harry Hanks with a 12-inch dick. Like, that's fucking weird, man. Harry Hanks, fucking straight. I hope that's an alias. Is the Hitchings and the Hitchings family plan to perform an exorcism at Hank's home, because obviously it's got far enough where they think good old sexy 15-year-old Shirley, according to this newspaper, it's crazy. So this is J. Stubbs Walker, graphic science correspondent. Today begins a fascinating investigation into these unseen forces of superhuman strength. So everyone that's upset by the fact that they call the 15-year-old vivaciously attractive, go talk to J. Stubbs Walker, who is either dead or really old in an old folks home reading old newspapers about 15-year-olds.
You had asked earlier about that whole poltergeist, and did they ever really reveal the whole Donald thing and what that was all about?
I still have it coming.
Oh, you still have it coming?
I still have lots of stuff coming, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, we don't want to, no spoiler alerts yet. So before the exorcism could begin, however, police intervened because an anonymous tip that black magic and witchcraft were actually occurred in the house.
Tom Cruise using witchcraft only to get the fire off me!
That was a nice little insert there. That whole thing, and some
They
people
always seem to
maybe
say that. That's the satanic panic shit.
from other parts of the world maybe won't understand this as much. You know, maybe in the States and even in Canada and stuff. But over here and in the UK and stuff, and especially at this time, it would have been, while it probably wasn't on paper as like against the law, something like that would have been like massively frowned upon to the point where you would have had like the police get involved. And
Oh, them trying to do an exorcism?
yeah, like there was probably no actual
I've been
grounds
smoking
there.
weed this whole time, so just people know in context.
You know, while they probably weren't technically breaking any laws on paper,
Yeah.
back then I think it's really not out of the realm of possibility. Like once the police heard this and the community probably went, yeah, you need to go and fucking tell them to like.
Oh, so because essentially if it doesn't happen over here. Like I've never heard, and it'd be cool if there was, but I've never heard an exorcism happening in Canada. I'm
But
sure
also,
like in indigenous culture, they would have like because they believe in, I think, some really crazy cool shit, but it's the spirit realm, right? So you could believe in some sort of indigenous culture that a spirit attached to somebody, so they would do rituals kind of like an exorcism to banish that spirit. So I feel like we'd have more of that, but I don't like, because it's done by the Catholic Church and stuff like that. I'm sure it's happened once or twice, but it's not like in Europe.
but so here's my other question then. Do you think that if it was happening, that it would be something that the police would even bother to get involved in?
You wouldn't think so. You'd be like,
Yeah, and
but
that's
then,
what I mean. Like
the police
over
walk
here, I
in and
think
they're doing a wet t-shirt contest with a 15-year-old. They're like, we're trying to exercise her, okay? She needs her exercise. And they have her on a treadmill in a white t-shirt and they're throwing holy water at her, which to me is only water blessed by a pedophile.
yeah,
It's like,
it
that's
is.
true. So fucking crazy. So as this kind of builds up, they want to do the exorcism. They have the police involved. The move caused so much buzz and controversy that even the House of Commons discussed the Battersea Poltergeist. The first time in history an alleged ghost was the topic of discussion there, because they're like, should they do an exorcist? This guy's here in his robe, and for some reason, a child is attached to him everywhere he goes. But like, like, do they do this or do they not do this? Like, should they do it or should they let the nonsense? Because then obviously a lot of these cases, some of these stuff, right, where even a child, right, is being possessed or haunted or something happens, somebody's right, they might have bruises and marks, and then obviously what would the logical answer be? Somebody in the family is abusing her.
Yeah.
So that also comes into play. Because isn't that off one of the Conjuring movies, or it's off of some sort of haunting movie where they think it's the husband or the boyfriend or something that like is essentially bruising the chick up, and I won't remember what it is, but
It
to me
sounds
that also
familiar though, yeah.
comes into an account, right? Because you have to think about what the police would think. They have to think logically, quotations.
Yeah, like their first thing isn't going to be to write a police report and be like, okay, yeah, spooky invisible Donald.
Yeah.
Is
Donald, they named it after Donald Duck so they could feel better.
Is like look at the family and probably more often than not the men in the family and be like, okay, he's
It's
probably
always
fucking,
it's always that way.
yeah, he's
According to
probably
yeah.
smashing her back doors in.
Jesus. It's like it's like Amber Alerts. It always seems to be a family member, never fucking somebody in government. That would never happen. So it kind of builds up, and after the disrupted attempt at an exorcism, Chibbit, good old Chippy boy, Chib as they called him, suggests a form of communication similar to a spirit board. He laid out cards in each letter of the alphabet on the table. Then Donald would tap on Chibbit's pointer at the right letter. So he had some sort of like fucking teacher pointer, you know, when they slap at the board.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would picture. But at the same time, how do you know if this guy is telling the truth? So is he just like lightly holding it and then the spirit's supposed to tap it like a Ouija board? You know, it's supposed to be light so something else can take a hand of you. Now you hold a drumstick like that?
I know, like, a lot of people, they question his motivation for doing this. He doesn't get paid or nothing like that, so you can't even say like he's like a con artist.
The
But then
grand
there is,
prize is the 15-year-old, according to that article.
and also like as we've talked about many times, sometimes people don't do these things for like monetary gain. There could be
No, they're
some other
interested
weird
by
shit
it.
going on in his mind. Like he could genuinely just be interested. Maybe
Yeah.
some weird fucking psycho dude. I don't know.
Or he's possessed by demons too. And then they're like, this house is awesome. We're gonna party here.
Maybe Donald sent him there on purpose.
See, and you can have to take that account because that's always in the movies most time, right? Where you don't know what is influencing people beyond our physical idea of what reality is. Because if it is like according to like I love David Icke, but according to his theories, and people don't share that opinion with me always, but how you see 10% of reality. 10%. I believe that. From the shit I've seen in my life, fucking 100%. That's where my like because you can tell at least from the visual spectrum, we see 10%. That's fucking mind blowing. Maybe even probably less.
Which is freaky.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. We don't see ultraviolet. We don't see gamma rays. We don't see these things that we can use technology to like see, like even like infrared stuff, right? It's like we use technology to see it, but like our natural eye doesn't do that type of stuff. Some creatures do.
The
Fucking
Predator.
Yeah, I know he shows up. I was just talking about the movie today. It's fucking so. Finally, like they're going to try to communicate with this poltergeist in a meaningful way, and they claim this is when the revelations were startling. Here, let me pull up some my nice music. The letter cards seemed to open up the floodgates of communication, and Donald began writing down notes and drawing symbols, such as a fluty list in the Hitchings front room. Okay, I got a question.
I myself.
What the fuck is a fluty list? A fleur de list. I have to look this up because that's fucking weird. Fleur? Do you know what that is? Do you have any?
Spell it. I don't know.
FLUEU. Okay. Fuck it. I have to. Flu. Give me a second. Oh,
FLU.
Okay, spell. Okay, I'm gonna spell it for you because I just realized. I don't. I'm on my MacBook for the research, and my other computer's hooked up somewhere else. So it's spelt. I'm gonna have to cut some of this shit. Goddamn. FLEUR.
FLE.
dash DE dash LIS. So you can tell I'm stoned. I'm on a different computer. It's not even hooked up to anything at all.
Just sitting there with a blank screen going.
And I was typing. I can open up things that I have the mouse for the other computer beside me, but I don't have the fucking keyboard. So I was like typing and I was like, why is this not typing? What the fuck is a fleur de list? It says
it is
drawing symbols such as a fleur de list.
Yeah, so it's a lily. It's a French thing, which actually funny ties into that whole thing because the guy reveals himself to be apparently a Frenchman.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
It's a lily that is used as a decorative design or symbol. It's been used in numerous European nations, but is particularly associated with France, notably during its monarch period. You know exactly as well the thing itself. You would know it. Like if let me see, let me pull it up here. FL.
So he's essentially just drawing a symbol.
Yeah, basically, like you've seen this thing fucking multiple times.
Oh yeah. I know what that is. Oh, weird. Yeah, that very Frenchy like.
Yeah, that like weird fucking design. You see it on like the top of like fencing and stuff.
Yeah. That's fucking weird. So the ghost was drawing that shit, which is also strange. And this was in the Hitchings front room every night. The front room was the front room was incidentally the only room in the house that could be locked and secured. So that's the idea, I guess, that they would go in that room to do these type of summoning rituals or a sense to try to invoke the ghost. The living room are what soon to become as known as Donald's room. He made his stay right in the living room. Displayed weird phenomenon such as dolls being arranged in circles at night, which is fucking scary. Uh, tapping all the time, just tapping along the music on the television. That's crazy. So like it's listening to like okay, what time is this? It's the 50s. I don't even know what music exists in the 50s. Like just fucking some saxophone shit, some jazz. I don't listen to music from the 1950s. 60s I can get behind. 50s. Is that Elvis? Is that Elvis? I don't know. I'm a millennial. I do like the music from the 60s. I just don't know what music was playing in the 1950s. So that would be frightening. You're like sitting there on a couch and you hear like tapping along to the tune.
Yeah, no, I'd shit my pants.
Fucking crazy. And also hundreds of notes of the family claims that Donald left each morning. And here's one of the notes for all the video watchers.
Okay, so
Killy Willy, of course. Oh, this is weird. It's like scribbled. It looks like Killy Willy at the top, does not?
And I think it's Kitty Witty. And it's a mixture of English and French, from what I can gather. There's some French words mixed in there.
Lee, so Hilth. I don't know what that is.
Of course.
It might be Ali, whatever the fuck how they pronounce the LE.
So something.
Yeah, I live in Canada. When
19,
use
a nice house.
Oh, he's fucking. It's Jay from New Jersey. When you smooth, you get out of my face. And it says 19. It's a weird letter. For anyone that wants to look this up, just look at the Battersea Poltergeist letter or notes. You'll see this one. It's fucking weird. And this was in 1964. All right, so we have some good music playing, man. We have some animals and some fucking Beatles, and I'm tired for that shit. So, and all these notes were supposed to be a period. That's why it does remind me of Jeff the Talking Mongoose, because there's these like legitimate, like physical things that this being or entity is doing. One of the creepiest was the first note, which simply said, "Surely, I come. Surely, I come." You could take that in a lot of ways. Surely I come on your face. Surely I come in the night. Surely I come inside. That's fucking weird if that is the first
letter. It is.
Especially when this news article called her vivaciously attractive. I didn't see that at all when you pulled those pictures up, so that's fucking too funny. The spirit claimed he was French royalty, and not just any member of the royal family. Donald claimed that he was Lost Dauphin, Louis Charles, the son of Louis. What's XV1? X is 10.
The 16th.
The 16th, and Mary Antoinette, which actually I would like to dive into her on one of our history episodes. It's fucking, that case is crazy. Heir to the throne during the French Revolution. The heir, not the hair. That was really bad on my part. The heir to the throne during the French Revolution. The young boy died before he could rule, according to history. But some believe he escaped his imprisonment rather than dying in captivity at age 10. That sounds like a crazy story. I love
and
history.
the whole
It's
thing,
fun.
like, the letters from Donald contained facts that they reckon not a lot of people would have known, such as the names of the king's bodyguards, later verified.
Oh yeah, I had that. That's crazy.
Yeah, in archives by Chibs.
It says even the thing was saying "Vive la France," "Viva France." Viva France.
Yeah, apparently that was written on the walls and stuff.
You know what their theme song is? Baguette. Sorry.
I don't know. Like, I think if I had a locked room, like if somebody came into my house, locked the room, went back to their house with the key, so I know that nobody's been in there. And then I opened the door the next day, and there's shit drawn on the walls. Like, I'd be moving out of that house
I know. I'm
instantly.
surprised they like did this and just put up with it as long as they did.
Because it's weird. Like, it seems like the more we talk about it, it's like, did this just become like a part of life, like doing the laundry? It was just like a chore. It's like, oh yeah, no, we have to put more paper in the room and let's paint the walls again so he has more space.
Well, think about
to
the
fucking-
economy right now, right? And then you'd be like, if you're paying $800 for an apartment right now in today's economy, you're gonna have to put up with it. You're gonna fucking love it because
Yeah,
at least you're
true.
not paying $2,000 for a 1-room apartment. Because that's like a lot of times when people pay in Canada. Canada's inflation is through the roof. Sorry to say, people, but it's fucking bad. And it's just like, so you just kind of have to put up with. And according to what I was reading, like the granny, the old Irish granny, she seemed like fine with it. She's like, just it was good for her because she could get around on her fucking wheelchair. So it was like a good place, and they didn't want to leave it because it was so good for granny.
Wasn't that the mother that was in a wheelchair because of her arthritis?
It also said that the granny was comfortable, so it might have been the mom in the wheelchair, though. I just remember them saying that the granny was comfortable.
And the granny seems to pop into the story every now and again and be like, "Stupid motherfuckers, leave that stuff alone. Stop messing with that shit."
Of course she would. She's Irish. She knows
I
all
know,
about
right?
fairies and folklore. Which
'Cause
I got fairy episodes coming for people. Don't you worry. It's
I actually I found a really interesting book today in like I don't know what you guys call it there. We would call it like a secondhand shop. So
yeah, same thing.
well, yeah, I don't know if it's called something different, but it's all these old like Irish haunted locations and places. This big hardback book. Some of them seem pretty fucked up.
Maybe a St. Patty's Day episode. Honestly, if you go back, me and Billy did a fairies and fairies and pixies and something. We did an episode all about fairies and pixies. It's probably the funniest shit to ever talk about. It's so fucking ridiculous. That's so funny. It's seeing and hearing Billy's reaction to the shit that we talked about. It's very funny. Fucking people go back and listen to that. If you don't know, we have done that. I love those type of creatures, but let's get back into this. So the handwriting analysis pointed out to Shirley as the writer of the notes, according to this, but that doesn't explain her knowledge of obscure facts that were later verified to be true. Despite Donald claiming he was scared, the alleged haunting continued to worsen. Donald wasn't done with the Hitching family by any means. Shirley claimed the worst period for the haunting was in spring 1956, a few months after the Battersea Poltergeist allegedly started his reign of terror. She said, what had been a bad-tempered spirit turned into a demanding and outright violent. Donald started making... keep changing her voice. British. Donald kept starting to demand, wanting to him to... Okay, I was gonna...
Oh, you had it there. You had it that time.
British. I got on the... That's how I gotta do it. Donald started making demands, wanting me to wear my hair in a certain way, then threatened us, saying he would set fire in the house. Dad locked all the matches and knives in our air raid shelter, but it did no good because the fires would start all over the house. One night Dad got burned putting out one of the fires. Underneath the burn were gouged like marks, like he had been clawed. So that went so weird.
Yeah, you went kind of off there at the end.
That was so off. That's fucking crazy. Chelsea's like, she's staring at me through the dark doorway, and I don't like it. Get out of here. That was a horrible British accent. Give me some British accent. She's like, no. Oh,
She's just
that's
popping
fucking.
her head in and going, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah, she does that all the time. She pops her head and is like, "What's wrong with this psychopath?"
I'm marrying this motherfucker.
Yeah. We're good. Yeah, getting married. I've heard that story is crazy too. How her like all these little fires started, and then she put like her dad put the matches away and like all the stuff, and then it was still happening.
But look, like, see again, I just question some of these decisions. Like, if it's getting to the point where you're putting like the matches and the knives into your air raid shelter,
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, at no point do you sit down and go, "Hold on, what the fuck are we doing? Like, we need to get out of here or like do something."
I don't know
more
why they
drastic."
wouldn't have left, especially like he burns himself, and then there's claw marks.
The next part of the story is probably the part I find maybe most unsettling, to be honest, with the granny.
The alleged haunting also got worse for Shirley's grandmother, Ethel. That's an old lady name for sure.
Mhm.
The Hitchings claimed that push Ethel down the stairs in October 1956. Then the floating objects began whispering and speaking in the voice of Ethel's mother. That is fucking frightening. This caused Ethel so much distress, the family ultimately blamed her stroke and subsequent death on the incident. I could see that. That's fucking frightening. What is this?
Yeah, like
Is this Beauty and the Beast? You got a fucking like goddamn candlestick talking to you, and his mother's a fucking teapot, and wait, that the gay guy's the gay
Lumiere or whatever the fuck you
yeah,
call him.
the gay candle.
Um,
And then Chip turned like that whole fucking movie's weird.
Yeah, that whole thing, like, so apparently it was October 1956. Objects started to
That's
float.
crazy. I did not know that because I went in this a little blind because I found this a couple weeks ago. That's crazy.
Like that, it's so wild. Objects started to float around the room, and then the room became filled with whispering voices. Then came one particular voice, an Irish woman. Shirley recalls Nan went to bits because it was her own mother's voice. She spoke back to it and went to her room. She had a stroke a few days later and died shortly afterwards.
That's fucking crazy. I
That
would blame if
is
that happened to someone I knew, my grandmother, my mom, anyone. I would think that was the ghost.
like
Like
that
an
to me
object
is
talking to you
wild.
is probably one of the strangest things I've ever heard in haunting. Is like
Could you imagine being in a room and all you can hear is all these voices whispering, and you can't
from
really
objects. Can't pinpoint what
decipher, you can't decipher any of them, and then out of nowhere your dead mother is like talking to you and shit.
I don't know.
That's
Part of me wants that to happen, but I don't want to die from it.
it's
like I
like
want to experience that shit.
absolutely fucked.
That's why it fascinates me, and I would love to be an experiment. And I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I don't want to do it too old because I might die. But like I've said this before, to go to a haunted location where it's said to be extremely haunted and take mushrooms. Like not a lot,
I
but
do
like
not.
a gram and a half kind of thing. Just enough where you kind of get to that next level of like mind, thought, reality. It would be because I don't fear really. You're not supposed to feel fear because a lot of the older tribes that would use it, they would use it in war. I don't want our Soldiers of War episode. That's our Soldiers on Drugs episode. That's now on the Patreon. That shit's crazy. Like the Swahili, some of the tribes used to like chew mushrooms and go to battle. Crazy. I want to do it in a haunting location.
Kind of seems like a good idea in a way. Yeah, like this whole thing is like so strange. And then like the family kind of at this point were like accustomed to the whole thing.
Yeah, the mom loved the ghost. Gave him breakfast every morning, cooked him in a little like what's that called, apron.
This is another thing I find weird, that the events weren't confined to the house. Charlie was sacked from her part-time job as a seamstress when Scissors disappeared, and she was forced to admit to the managers that she was the poltergeist girl. In 1964, they moved about a 15-minute walk away from the original house, but the activity continued.
15-minute walk. That's gonna make a big difference.
Yeah,
I want to mention this.
I'd be moving country.
So Donald also had a strange obsession, and that's why I think we're showing a picture for all the audio listeners of Shirley older, like she looks like maybe early 20s, 18, 19 maybe, and she's holding a picture. And to me, this is probably the famous actor because Donald, this ghost, also had a strange obsession with actor Jeremy Spencer, threatened to harm him if Shirley didn't meet him. So I feel like the picture's holding up looks like an old like a celebrity what'd you call that? What do they call when you have the headshot of an old celebrity, right?
Mhm.
And it, I might not be him, but I have a feeling it is. I didn't want to look it up, but perhaps coincidentally, Spencer suffered a non-fatal accident soon after the alleged spirits issued the threat.
You see,
That's
the whole
weird.
thing, the whole thing, right? Let me for a second be the person, even though this is not how I feel, let me be the person who doesn't believe in any of this, right? how obscure is this hoax?
Yeah. To
Like,
to
how
have all these
random.
coincidental
Yeah,
things
and like
happen.
all these weird, like random things, and why pick that random actor? Why pick this random French man and this story? Like,
So
where
weird.
was a fucking 12-year-old girl gonna come up with that? Like,
I know, it's fucking nuts. Like in
and it's
this,
not like they
when I
had
looked this up and I was like, and you can't find a lot of stuff on this. You can't. I found, I think, the most in-depth articles that I could find on this because it's not as well known as some of these other cases that have article after article, all these internet archives of stuff, like just like all these like ThoughtCo or all these different websites that do that. If like what interests you, I've used some
Mhm.
of those websites, stuff like that for research because they lay it out pretty nicely. But the thing is, you don't see a lot on this. Even I was talking to Anton about this case. He's like, I can't find like anything really on it.
Yeah, and you can't you can't say, oh well, she could have researched stuff on the internet or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, it's the 50s.
I know. You can't do
So
that. It can't
yeah, like,
explain that in that form at all.
yeah, where would she, like, different if it was now in modern times, you could say like, well, they used the internet and tried to connect the dots and whatever, and there's all these things available. Back then, like, where was she going to get this information?
I know. And it seemed like the death of Shirley's grandmother seemed to like peak, it like peaked in activity. And the
Hmm.
family claimed the haunting started to de-escalate after that point. So it kind of ramped up to like killing the grandmother, which is sad. But the activity started leaving the house with Shirley. So that's what you're talking about when they kind of left and they moved. And Shirley had even taken a job at a department store as a seamstress. It's a fun name for someone who just sews clothing together.
I don't know, like,
What?
I'm looking at different things from her where she says, like, it ruined my life. I was over 21 before I could get back to some sort of normality. It interfered in all aspects of my life. One boyfriend came to the house and was trying to goad Donald by saying things like, come on, Donald, do your worst. Do your worst. But he fled after a ball was tipped onto his head.
That's fun.
Once, when she went out for a car ride with a man who would later become her husband, she came home to find her mother sitting with written messages from Donald detailing exactly what she had been up to with her boyfriend at the time.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That's fucking crazy.
Again, like, it's just, I don't know, it's so out there.
It's
Um,
like in when she started working, right? Like all of a sudden, like while she's working, these scissors would suddenly disappear that they were using because they're essentially making like clothing. That's what I'm pretty sure a seamstress does. Is you
mhm.
like sew shit together, um, which is weird. And convinced Shirley was responsible, the store subjected her to a humiliation of a strip search. So they literally strip searched this chick because they thought she was stealing the scissors, which kind of leads up to our Scissor Sisters episode. Dun dun dun. That's coming soon.
Could you imagine? Just that situation, right? I can't imagine. Like, I've been a manager in GameStop for like
Shirley,
over a
stop
decade.
taking all the scissors.
Could you imagine? Like, could you imagine a world where you would go in and go like, okay, where's the PS4 controller? It's like
Yeah,
everyone's like, I don't know. It's like, okay, everybody strip.
I need to find this.
Yeah,
Well,
I
you
need to
think about it
check all
because
your assholes to
I'm
see if you've got the controller
just
up
let me
there.
look inside like a Michael Jackson. So it and how can you be allowed to do this when she was technically 15? Like I guess into her skivvies, your underwear and shit like that. But like that's weird to do. A strip search to me seems like you're gonna get naked in front of me and some fat guy named fucking Bobby. So like I'm not saying that's what his name was, but
Weird as well. I could understand like it was something of high value, like the
scissors.
safe was missing or something, or all the money from the safe or
Who
jewelry.
took
But
these goddamn scissors?
it's like fucking scissors. Like, come on.
Promoting her to admit that she was the poltergeist girl in quotations. I'm the poltergeist girl. Don't you know me? She was subsequently fired when she told her she was the poltergeist girl. At this point, the Battersea Poltergeist allegedly followed Shirley to an appearance on the BBC News, where those in studio reported hearing tapping noises. Shirley was then supposedly exacerbated by Donald's presence. It's a good word to use. She said It ruined my life. It took my teenage years. I was 21 before I could get rid of, to get near anything near normality. Even then, he interfered in my life. One boyfriend came to my house and was trying to goat Donald by saying things like, "Come on, Donald, do your worst." But he fled after the bowl tipped on his head, like you said. But that's like her actually saying that on the show, which is like, so this bowl of like cereal like came over his head like it's some sort of comedy movie by Disney, and it's like,
I don't know. There's just too many. There's too many experiences with too many different people that are not connected.
yeah,
For it to be bullshit.
one brave man. One man braved the phenomenon surrounding the poltergeist girl, eventually married her, but even was the subject to Donald's scrutiny. He and Shirley came home from a date one night to find that her mother, Kitty, we never talked about the mother's name. So this note that we
Kitty
have,
Witty.
Kitty Witty, because that's
Interesting.
the mother. Huh. Interesting. And so they came up that Kitty had stayed up. It's like that 70s show. They stayed up waiting for her, but not alone. Donald had written messages about her waiting alongside Kitty for the couple to return. Like you said earlier, how it like was writing, knowing what the couple was doing through these notes. But how do we know the mom wasn't writing them?
This is
Like
the thing.
What's her name? God damn it. The little pageant girl. John Benet Ramsey. How it seemed to be like in one of their handwritings. I think it was the mom or the dad. I think it was the mom, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Fucking Patty or whatever the fuck. It's on with a stupid P, which is also a fucked up case that people want to hear. So Donald had been writing messages to everyone, which is crazy. And in 1964, they had finally had enough and they moved away. And then it still followed them. And it still came after them. And the house at 63 Wycliffe Road was demolished in the late 60s. So it was gone, and she was still being affected by these ghosts. And the weird thing is they demolished it, right? So that you're acknowledging that something weird happened there, or maybe you're building something new. But according to what I have, no other houses was built on the site.
Mm-hmm.
But the family claimed Donald's haunting continued.
I don't know that because normally something like that would, I guess, in a lot of times stop the whole thing.
Yeah, being a house demolished and having energy, because essentially, like what I've said before on the show, right, is like we've used Ouija boards in graveyards, never got anything, which is like always proves to me that like it exists because there's certain places I've been where it won't work, or if somebody's hand's not touching it, which it seems shady as fuck. But the one time it wouldn't work unless I was touching it. I was with a bunch of people, and it's said because like it was my Ouija board because it's my possession that it's a cult. It has to be like used by me, and I was not pushing shit. Like, and even maybe my subconscious is super powerful when I was doing stuff, but I literally go into it just lightly touching my fingers, not really trying to have it move whatsoever. And they literally would start moving fast as soon as I touched it, and all these other people had their hands on it. Sounds shady on my part, but I'm being honest.
You're a con man.
Yeah, well, I wasn't getting any money from this. But we've used in graveyards. Doesn't work because I've always said like these people that die in these energies that stay on this earth somehow bound to it, or feel like they have unfinished business or whatever it really is, or if you feel stuck because like I've said the story before, Chelsea's mom during when she went to a psychic, she saw one of her ex-husbands and he died and didn't know he was dead. He was like walking around and like trying to talk to people and didn't know he was dead.
Freaky.
Is that fucked up, man? And it's like super late where you are right now too, so it's even creepier.
What is it? 1 a.m.
It's crazy. It's only at 8:10 here, and I haven't even ate dinner and done anything because I wanted to really get into this shit. So, and the thing is, these people would go like it kind of shows in even The Conjuring of the one spirit that attaches to the house, and it stays where it wants to go, essentially, where it feels comfortable in. So spirits would gravitate towards being where they're comfortable and where, you know what I mean, where they want to be. So even after Shirley moved out, You know, she got her own, she got married, she had a child. She claimed Donald persisted until 1968. Now in West Sussex, Donald seemed content leaving messages regarding her parents' activities in London. Then one day, Donald announced he was leaving. I can't fucking do it. I tried, man. And never communicated with Shirley again. After living with the alleged spirit for 12 years, Shirley's mother felt as if Donald departed. His departure was a loss to be mourned. But Shirley and her fathers felt so not felt so. God damn it! Let me read. Fuck it said. Then one day, Donald announced he was leaving, never to communicate with Shirley again. After leaving the alleged spirit for 12 years, or after living with the alleged spirit for 12 years, Shirley's mother felt as if Donald's departure was a loss to be mourned, but Shirley and her father felt no such grief, and they were thrilled to see him go. And what I was like researching, we're literally bringing this to a close, but that his the mother like seemed to like view him as like a son or something. Like you got to be kind of a little bit mentally not stable to be like, I miss my ghost son.
Yeah. I don't know that you see, and again that kind of, I think situations like that then breeds life into the whole like skeptical side where people are like, see, she's fucked in the head. I told you it's all her like figment of her imagination or whatever. She was like keeping this shit going. Do you have anything on the rest of the story? Because that's not
So it is
exactly the end.
if this alleged poltergeist story sounds like an ideal material for a horror movie or TV, Blumhouse is coming out with it. It's what you mentioned. So that's pretty much where I had it. Because essentially, people are working on stories for this. Is how it's ending. Because essentially, there's also two companies also that have the rights that are supposed to be bought. Because to me, then you're okay. At the end of your life, she didn't seem to want to sell this or talk about it, but now she's like, "I'll give you the rights in the story. Give me a couple of pounds."
So the tale didn't actually end there. She, in an interview, she revealed that in the 1980s, a medium had approached her at a craft fair. She said that Shirley was being followed by a little boy in fancy dress, blue satin, and he's got red hair. It's a description Shirley recognized all too well. Chib had once given her a postcard featuring Charles. I'm assuming that's the
Charles Lee Ray,
the fucking Louis the 16th or whatever.
Yeah.
Wearing a blue satin suit and featuring red hair. And recently, at a psychic event with her daughter, Shirley was given a message from a boy who had said
Louis
he
Charles,
was
the son of Louis Charles.
Yeah. Shirley was given a message from a boy who said he was sorry for all that he had done. Danny, the host of the podcast, says, I definitely think that Donald was some form of ghost, and he was certainly messing with the Hitchings family. Dr. O'Keefe is similarly circumspect. If you take all of the witness testimonies at face value, there can only be one possible explanation for one or two of the phenomena, and that's something paranormal. The knocking at the beginning is convincing because it was witnessed by so many people, including the police. But there are problems with eyewitness accounts, he says. Fear and sleep deprivation can make you think an object is moving by itself. We also can't discount that someone in the family or Shirley herself wrote the letters and wall messages. I didn't know this, a live show of the Battersea Poltergeist podcast began touring and includes new witnesses who have reported further poltergeist activity in the area where the house once stood. It's a Bermuda Triangle of the paranormal.
That's crazy. One show about one case of a poltergeist can do a live show, and we can't afford it yet. Come on.
I know, right?
Come on. Like, That's fucking crazy. And I like when I looked into this, I was like, this sounds like and when I was like researching, because I go through like different websites and I'm looking for different stuff of stuff we can talk about that is different than what other people are touching upon. And I always like to do something a little different, but obviously shows are always going to do the same sort of shit. It's going to happen. Like we want to do a deep dive as we did in a Dahmer about like Richard Ramirez, like stuff like that is fairly interesting to me. But the thing is, I feel like we have a different perspective over at Strange Brew and First Class Horror. But that is fucking like this is probably one of the craziest, most strangest poltergeist stories I've heard, and me and Billy have covered a bunch by this time, like at least strange, weird hauntings and stuff.
I was looking at an article on the Daily Mail website
that
about
song.
this, and they have
Daily Mirror reporters or what I have.
there's a comment underneath it, and like people are saying like, yeah, fake story, I don't know, fake perhaps, and all this stuff. And then somebody's like, I was a total non-believer in spirits. That was until I saw someone in the middle of the night standing over me when I awoke from my sleep. It wasn't a dream, it was real and extremely scary. That was over 50 years ago, and I remember this as vividly as if it was yesterday.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my shadow people experience.
That's why I read that out, because it kind of reminds me of what you said about that.
And fucking Chelsea's sister, she probably won't mind me saying, like she saw her grandfather like peeking
Stop.
over the bed.
Stop.
Isn't that crazy?
That freaks me out. Stop.
I don't like the peeking thing. Like that's fucking.
That's fucking.
I'm doing the thing. Yeah,
dude.
it's yeah. Then the thing is that's crazy. No wonder when like me and Chelsea are connected the way we are, because she had her own experiences with Ouija boards. She used to have this like teddy bear always fall off her like top of her like TV like cabinet thing, because she asked for a ghost to do it, and it would do it repetitively all the time to let her know that it was a good spirit, but let her know it was there. And
Dude, I have chills at the thought of the granddad fucking
just looking. See, and when fucking Chelsea told that story, I was like, frightening. That is so scary to me. Is like
That
that
would
idea. And even if
literally
it's someone you know, it's still
make me
frightening.
shit my pants. That would be like the worst.
I always told my grandfather to send me a sign, which who knows, he probably would, because he didn't believe in the afterlife, and like, or I feel like he did, and then at the end of his life, he was like, "We're all going to fucking in the dirt," like just like Barry came, like what most old people do is they think that it's all over and they couldn't give a shit and kind of thing, right? And I always told him to visit me, but then part of me is like, maybe don't do that. I don't want to see you stand at the end of my fucking bed.
Yeah, don't do it in that way. Do it in like a cool, like chill way. Don't come up with the fucking end of the bed, like peering
To
out.
tell you this story, to end this off, because if you go back and listen to the Bewitched Banter episode, I did mention this, but my buddy I get my haircut by, his friend is like been plagued by ghosts and had a lot of weird ghost experiences and claimed his ghost was like his house was haunted. So, he like his son kept saying he saw Mr. Fox. Okay, his son wakes up and he keeps seeing this like dark entity, this shadow thing in his room. And he's like, there's the shadows in my room again. And he keeps coming to my buddy's buddy, like my buddy Sean, his homeboy. And he said I could tell the story because it's fucked. And he keeps seeing this stuff. And they're like, no, he's like, they're like, what is it? I keep seeing this ghost, and he keeps making this popping sound. And they're like, what? And he's like, he tells me his name is Mr. Fox. So it keeps happening. And this is like freaking the dude out. And then they go to their, like, it's a family event, and the guy's dad's there, and that the father of the son that's hearing all this stuff and seeing all this this weird shadow person. And then he's like, he keeps talking about like seeing this thing called Mr. Fox. And then his grandfather, the boy's grandfather, the guy's dad, is like, Mr. Fox is my dad. Fucking weird. And then he's like, he keeps hearing these popping sounds. He's like, my dad used to smoke on a pipe. Is that fucking crazy? And then get this, they're out for a walk near a park. And then some kid yells, "Hey, turn around." And there was a fox behind them. And my buddy says, this guy doesn't lie. Like this is like he's like he would never tell me this. He's been interested by this stuff his whole life, and he's had a lot of like experiences not even wanting it at all. And that story, I was like, you like legit, man? Because I was like, I'll tell on the podcast. And he's like, yeah, you can tell because he knows I do the show and stuff. And I was like, yeah, like he's like, you can tell it's fucking frightening. Because he's like, because I asked him, I was like, do you believe in this stuff? Because he sits there and cuts my hair, and he asked what's going on with the show, right? So I'm like, man, that's fucking frightening, isn't it? It's a horror movie, man.
And like, it's probably, if that is the case and that's the experience, it's probably not done in a malicious way, but for some reason,
It
it's
looks
just
like it is.
freaky.
Because we don't know what the reality that exists beyond this is like. It could be like, according to what I've heard and, about people who astral project, it looks like this world, but a lot darker. But the thing is, if you were on the other side and you were just visiting, you feel like it'd be like a light bound thing that you could just kind of see everything in. Because according to something I would love to get into is like near death experiences, which we never really talked about on the show, which would be really interesting. Is like in seeing these things. There's a guy named Robert Moreau. Yeah, that's his name. And he like died for a couple hours or a couple days or something crazy. I remember like hearing about this. David Icke actually brings this up too, how he like he ends up like leaving his body and he sees like this dark reality. And he said that like everything happens like you think your life flashed between your eyes. It happens so quickly that you actually see everything, that like there's no lies in this life, because when you die, you will be shown everything. When somebody lied to you, your friends, your woman, your male, your whatever you have in your life, it'll essentially show you like different versions of their life, what they've done, how they've influenced your life, like all at once. And he's like, it's essentially a blast of information of your lifetime here, which sounds fucking crazy.
That shit, like it gets like, and it gets my mind going. I'm like, fuck.
That's why I do think that, considering what we did with the Dahmer episode, if we get we've done for the audio listener, things might get cut, but essentially we down to close to 2 hours. We done over 2 hours of talking about this stuff, and I feel like with me and you, we can just lead down this crazy path of discussing these sort of things. And there's a big potential for us to do some like long form crazy episodes with conspiracies, paranormal, a lot of stuff, because I could talk about it all day and there's like thoughts that I still have, but this case was crazy.
Yeah, this is one of the stranger ones for sure, and just like the
I'm glad
whole
we
thing,
talked about
how
it. It's crazy.
yeah, how long it went on, and there's a lot of different things. So I suppose then, but before we do finish it up, then as it stands now, like having listened to all the information and all the different stuff that you've listened to and heard about it, like where do you stand on it now?
Can you guess that I believe it?
Do you really? Wow.
I think no, not necessarily. I think there's a potential that this could have happened. It could have been. It's hard to say because I don't know what to believe anymore, right? Because to me, reality is flimsy as fuck, especially after all the psychedelics that I've done. Like, I would say that it could. Considering the banging what the neighbors heard and all the things that they kind of tested, I believe to an extent that it did exist, but they technically could have overhyped it.
Yeah, I think I stand on the same kind of, and especially when you hear afterwards, like where, the mother is like, "Oh damn, and all,
I
Donald's
miss
gone."
you, Donald.
Yeah, it just
Meanwhile
leads
her
me to
dildo that
believe.
they hid in a cupboard. It's like you can't have that anymore. It's driving you crazy.
I do definitely believe that there was something going on there, but I think maybe certain people in the family,
Egged it on a bit or fantasized about
yeah,
it.
and maybe the mother more so than all, and maybe look, I don't know whether it was a case of she kind of helped it along out of fear or out of like not knowing how to deal with whatever was happening that she couldn't explain away logically.
Yeah.
And then maybe it just sent her into this like weird delusion, and it was like her way of coping.
Fear does crazy things to your mind, man. Look at it. People were scared of an airborne virus and thought that the mask against their face would protect them from it.
And look how that turned out.
So the idea that's why obviously you have a world sold in fear, because everything is like that is fear-based sells, because according to what I've seen in the world, the governments love to keep people in fear and people love to be scared. That's why horror movies are so fucking prominent and why people love to experience that, because you can do it without knowing you're going to get harmed. Which that's what it was like for me to use some of these occult practices as a kid, which I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what a cult was. I was just like, I just want to talk to a ghost. I want to see if there's something outside of this reality. And in my mind, I succeeded, and I probably wouldn't go back there unless you and Anton join me, because then we could all hold hands and then we're all possessed.
Everybody's fucked if you have to be possessed. You want to bring people with you.
Exactly. That's how we're gonna end this. So, this was a lot of fun. We went way longer than I thought, because this idea is so in depth when it comes to the idea of being haunted by a poltergeist. Seems frightening. I said on the Halloween special that I had a therapist that fucking said that he heard banging in his like cupboards opening and closing after using a Ouija board. It's a frightening thought, because I've never had that, where it's literally driving you insane, where you can't sleep because the amount of noise that is being made. And when we talk about Jeff the Talking Mongoose down the road, that's even a huge thing. He like constantly makes noises and shit and fucks with them because he wants to like drive them insane. And maybe it's the ghost doing this, maybe it's their own mind. But this one was I did not know about this case until recently.
I didn't even realize when you first mentioned it to me. I didn't like draw the parallels. I've heard of this before, but I wasn't. I never looked at it as in depth as I think we have now.
Yeah. It's crazy. Final thoughts is everyone stay strange, you know? Like there's a lot of stuff coming, you know, we have a lot of things in the works. Tons of stuff. The Patreon is got over 50 episodes that, you know, normally other podcasts would, you know, make you pay more, but we're doing like a $3 flat thing, and you get like video content, audio content, extra episodes, commentaries. There's a lot of fun stuff on the Patreon. And shout out, there's been some new Patreon subscribers, so I'll show you guys out when I have your names pulled up somewhere. But we appreciate everyone that does tune in and pitch in and, you know, helps keep the world strange, because that's the best way to support us. And there's a lot of stuff coming. I could think of a million things off the top of my head that we've even just kind of talked about doing for both of our shows.
I know, yeah, I know. It seems like a constant thing every time we do
Hey,
another
you want to
story.
do this?
Yeah, another 10 stories pop up.
Yeah, fuck, it's crazy. And now Anton's got a list. I've got a list. You have a list. It's gonna be crazy. And Billy will be there just to experience it. All right, everyone, stay strange. Obviously, follow you at First Class Horror, Class Horrorcast, all the good stuff.
Yeah, wherever, and make sure
To go to hell, as your hat says. I do like some of your hats. I'm still living in the world where I kind of curve my beak, but it still kind of flat. I gotta wear the gangster hats. I'll be 50 and I'll be wearing that shit.
Yeah, you see, I have shit tons of them, and then I don't know, this year for some reason, I don't know whether maybe everyone thought I was like super old or something, but everyone started buying me dad hats, which
Well,
are
no,
these
you're a
ones.
dad
Those,
now.
those
You
weird, like,
rep the cargo shorts, bro. You're
Yeah.
dad all the way, man.
that is true, actually. See, that's the thing. I think is that a natural progression in life, and you don't even realize, and then you're
And
like,
then one day you
wait
wake
a
up and
second,
you have
what?
jean shorts on, but they're above your like kneecap, and you're out mowing the grass, drinking beer. All right, we love everybody. There's a lot of stuff coming, so honestly, be excited, because it's only gonna get better from here. And when it comes to Strange Brew, we've gone uphill for the past year or two, so it's getting there.
It's only going to get stranger.
Yeah, that's true. All right, see you later, fuckers.
Bye.